Hey guys, Chris here with The Good Old Gamer. So if you're fans of the channel, you may have noticed that you've seen a lot of Doom multiplayer gameplay footage being used on the channel. And now you understand why. It's because this video has been in the works for a little bit, and today we're going to be talking about Doom 2016's multiplayer and how it holds up in 2018. Now, Doom's multiplayer never really received a lot of fanfare. In fact, a lot of people figured it was the worst part of the package. And that's the reason why I'm not talking about the campaign here, because in modern day terms, it is freaking awesome. It is a first-person shooter's wet dream, and it's really the pinnacle of what we should be expecting from first-person shooters at this particular point. So there's really no sense in rehashing over all that information, but the multiplayer is something that I think was glossed over by the community for seemingly no reason. And it could also be because the market is shifting and gamers want different things. Maybe that's the case, but a lot of people don't really seem to understand what it is that Doom really brought to the table. First off, remember back in the day, way back when, like prehistoric times, back in the mid-2000s, when games had a solid campaign, multiplayer, and even extra features such as map creators and things like that. Games like Halo, games like Call of Duty, these were staples back in the mid-2000s, and they delivered a complete package. Now, in 2016, id Software released Doom, which also is a complete package. Between the campaign, solid multiplayer, and the snap map feature, there is a ton of content available in this particular package. Now, ironically enough, like I said, the multiplayer never really caught on, but if we harken back to the good old days, back in the mid-2000s, the most relatable game to Doom, as far as the multiplayer component is concerned, in my opinion, is actually Halo 3. So anybody who is a fan of the old-school Bungie Halo multiplayer experience honestly should have really enjoyed, and still can enjoy, Doom's multiplayer today. Reason for this is they're both very similar in their core concepts. Now, I'm going to be specifically talking about the Team Deathmatch or Team Slayer game type, as typically that's what most gamers go towards. That's my preferred game type, as I really don't want to be doing objectives and all this complicated shit after I get home from work. I just want to run around and shoot people, and most people typically agree with that. That's why those are the most popular match type in pretty much any first-person shooter multiplayer game. Now let's go over some of the similarities between Halo and Doom. First off, you're dropped into an arena-style map. It's a set map, things don't change, everything's laid out in a specific order, and things spawn in specific spots for the most part. Number two, you have just one movement speed. There's no, hey, you're lining up a shot and then this guy starts running crap. You can line up shots appropriately because there's no other dynamic as far as their speed is concerned. You can go ahead and properly line up shots, and this way it's a little bit more predictable. The game is designed around power-ups and controlling certain points of the map. In Halo, that was going for power weapons. Same thing in Doom. There are power weapons. There are power-ups such as overshields, things like that in Halo, and we also have regeneration and quad damage and things like that in Doom. So those are very similar. Also, the combat feel of the two games is also very similar. In Doom, you have more options as far as equipment that you can use, but the grenade types and the actual gunplay mechanics in the game are very similar. You have to use melee, you have to use your weapons, and you have to use your equipment. Much like in Halo, you use grenades, you use your weapons, and you use melee to go ahead and actually have good combat with the opponents, and it's a really good gunplay experience where the better player will typically win. So both games really are kind of basic overall, but they have a really high skill gap once you really get to the more competitive play. So it's easy for casual gamers to get in because it's not overly complicated. There aren't too many different mechanics available to people, but at the same time, because it is a gunplay-driven experience, the better players will typically win, and they feel better because of that. So this is an issue that a lot of modern multiplayer games are having. Fortnite's a big one right now because they don't want to go ahead and increase the skill gap. A lot of people are really pissed off because they're trying to make the game more casual and making it easier for newer players to get in with their bullet spread. I don't play Fortnite, so this is going off of other information that I've heard from other people that are really big into Fortnite, but they're just dumbing the game down to the point where everybody can get in there, and they're lowering the skill gap level. And in Doom and Halo, the game is easy enough as it is to get into. Anybody who wants to play the game can understand the mechanics pretty quickly. Now, to master it and be excellent at the game takes a long time and a lot of hard work. You actually have to be good at the game to be extremely successful. Now, that's where the two games are similar. Now, they're dissimilar in the fact that Doom, you do have the loadout system, and a lot of people had an issue with that. They wanted to run around and find guns. Personally, I don't like that. I prefer starting my game with the weapons that I want to use. For example, in Halo 3, I always needed a BR to be competitive. If I didn't get a BR, I was likely going to die until I got one. Now, granted, there are other weapons that you can get in Halo to go ahead and balance things out, but starting with the weapons that you're best with and are balanced, so it's not like you're overpowered, it's just weapons that you're better with, balances the game out even further. So that's something that I actually liked in Doom, but a lot of people didn't. That's kind of a to each their own kind of thing. I prefer the balancing effect there instead of the randomization. If I can get the guns that I'm better with, I will then do better. I would rather just have them and have the best experience possible. Now, of course, in Doom, you have the ability to become a demon, which a lot of people had issues with, and there were balancing issues with that at first. I mean, seriously, when the game first launched, anytime I hit a demon rune, I didn't die. I was just too powerful and too OP. Nowadays, they have it more balanced out. You take the same amount of damage as a demon as you would as just a regular person. You just have more health. Now, for example, I like to play as the Revenant. Revenant has 300 health, so I only have 3 times the health of a normal player, which means if I do something stupid, I'm a much bigger target, and everybody's going to be shooting at me. So if I just run into a group of opponents, they can take me down fairly quickly. They also have the balancing mechanic of other power-ups and things like that to go ahead and make it a much more balanced experience. Now, for example, something like the Baron of Hell is more like a tank, but he can't do long-range damage. So, for example, I'll be running away from him, sniping the whole time, and it's also harder for that demon to traverse, like jumping platforms and things. So there are ways to go ahead and maneuver yourself around that. But there's really nothing in Halo that would be akin to that. There's really nothing that they had that would be similar. So that is a major difference there. The other big difference is the movement, and that's mostly with the ledge grab and the double jump. I actually think something like that in the old school Halos would have been really, really cool because they had a lot of verticality in those games, just like you have in Doom. And it just allows you to move around the map quicker, easier, and more seamless. Doom is a very fluid game, start to finish. You're always moving forward, and not being able to get to a certain point because you just can't access it, or you can't find the jump, or you have to run up some stairs. That just doesn't fit the Doom gameplay style. Now, in Halo, that is kind of the case. You needed to find a lift or something like that to get from one level to the other, or some stairs or something like that. So in Doom, you can just kind of double jump onto like some ledge over here and then jump to wherever it is that you want to go. So it allows you to keep moving forward without having to stop. So that's a pretty big difference there as well. Now, that's where I want to end the comparison to Halo 3. The biggest thing is that Halo 3 is considered one of the greatest multiplayer games ever. And like I said, most of its key features are there in Doom's multiplayer. And how does that still hold up here in 2018? Well, I really love it. I loved Halo 3. I loved Halo 2. The multiplayer experiences on those games were amazing. Personally, I wasn't that big into the Call of Duties. I much preferred the Halo style because it is more balanced. And like I said, it is a little bit more accessible to new players and just noobs in general. So, you can get your friends over. They can just jump on. They can play. They're not going to do very well, but they can figure it out pretty quick and understand the gameplay mechanics. It's kind of the same thing with Doom. Doom's a little bit more complicated because it does have more options as far as equipment goes. But for the most part, if people just want to stick with the basic grenade, which I actually do because it works best for me. But, for the most part, if they've ever played Halo, to them that's going to be extremely familiar. Now, compared to other games out today, I mean, it's not Battle Royale. It's not any of these gimmicky type of games out there that, personally, I don't think have the legs to last forever. Now, there's a lot of cool people out there inventing new different types of gameplay experiences, which are great, and it's always fun to try new things. But, for example, like the Battle Royale thing, Basically, I call it the camp in a bush simulator, because if you really want to be successful and win the game as much as possible, avoiding conflict is actually your best solution. That doesn't appeal to me. Like, Joe kept wanting me to get to play PUBG with him, and honestly, I couldn't get into it. I much prefer this style of gameplay. Put me in arena, let everybody have the guns that they want, and whoever is best walks away with the win. You know, it's all about that KDR, and just the better players are going to do better. Even if you're on a shit team, you know, as long as your KDR is holding up pretty good, you feel like that's a win. And it's just a lot more fun. Matches are over in about 8 to 10 minutes. You know, you come home from work, jump on in, blow some 12-year-olds away, and you go on and eat dinner. You know, you're not stuck there for 20, 30 minutes. Oh man, you know, I'm in this really good bush and, you know, nobody can find me, and I'm going to get to the end and I'm just going to punk out this last guy who can't find me, and that's great. To me, that's not fun. I'd rather do this, and in my opinion, I think this holds up very well today, as it is the most modern game with these gameplay mechanics that worked so well in the mid-2000s. And like I said, to me, they still hold up well today. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Have you played Doom's multiplayer? Did you enjoy it? Are you one of those people that just said, no, it looks like Call of Duty, so I'm not going to play it? Even though it's nothing like Call of Duty per se. It's much more like Halo, and that's a more apt analogy there. Considering the guys that made Doom's multiplayer or worked on Doom's multiplayer also worked on like Halo Reach and a bunch of other Halo games and things like that. So kind of makes sense why it has that feel to it. But anyways, like I said, let me know what you guys think down there. And if you haven't given this a shot, why don't you go ahead and give it a try? Doom's regularly on sale pretty cheap. And realistically speaking, if you don't own Doom and you like first-person shooters, you need to buy this game anyway, because the campaign itself is worth it in and of itself. It's an amazing experience that we just don't see that much in modern gaming today. And that's why I'm excited to see what Rage 2 has to offer, because it looks very, very similar to Doom's campaign style. Well, alrighty guys, that's all I have for today. If you like this kind of video, please hit that like button, please subscribe, please share with friends. That really helps me out. And that's all I have for today, and I will catch you guys in the next video.